What's up, ladies and gentlemen, Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. Today we have another very important subject that we're going to be speaking about that I think so many people are currently struggling with and having a hard time navigating and understanding. It's very understandable. I know for myself, I've had a hard time understanding this as well within my own inner process. But now I feel like I have some wisdom that I can share on this that is something that you as a listener are going to gain value from. Okay, we're talking about stop trying to kill your ego. Stop viewing your ego as a bad thing and trying to get rid of it or dismiss it and just separate from it forever as if it's this evil, dark energy that's just plaguing your life with unfortunate circumstances. Okay, there's a lot of people that approach the ego from an adversarial lens that you have to fight against it. And I'm here to let you know that you do not need to approach it that way. And actually, if you do approach it that way, you are only going to make your ego worse. And it is going to end up causing a lot of damage in your life. And I will be explaining why this is in today's video. I'll even be going into some depth on what exactly the ego actually is for those of you that don't really understand it. So if this is something that you are interested in learning more about, I highly recommend you stay tuned for the rest of the entirety of the video because I'm going to be sharing these golden nuggets of wisdom and knowledge throughout the whole video to the very end. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so here we go. So we're talking about the ego. All right, so first thing first, what exactly is the ego? And does every single person have an ego? And then what is the difference between the self, the true self, and then the ego, self, we could say. Okay, so first thing first, yes, every single human being has an ego. This is the ability to observe yourself, really. This is the you that is the human, okay? You as the human, a big part of being human, I should say, is having an ego. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't be a human. And I don't care how spiritual you think you are and how enlightened you may think you are, that you left your humanness and now you're this spiritual being without an ego. It's not true. And I've been that person too, where I thought there was aspects of me at points in my process in the past where I felt like I had left my ego behind because I got to a certain level of like awareness, but I was wrong. And the reality is that the ego is always going to be there and we need to have a healthy relationship with the ego. But there's also a reality that we don't have to be attached to our ego either, and we don't have to live from our ego. And I'll be explaining that within today's video because that's going to be important to understand. But with that being said, the ego is a conglomeration of protective parts within our system. So there have been a lot of you that have been tuning into my content and have been going deeper with understanding the nature of parts. I'm going to create an entire playlist on my YouTube channel which kind of breaks down parts. And you can search these videos up by searching in Universal Mastery Parts Work or Universal Mastery, something along the lines of internal family systems. And you should be able to find my videos that talk about this. But parts is something that plays a big role in regards to the makeup of our ego. So protective parts are basically parts of us that form through trauma in the past that are designed to manage and put out fires for certain emotional wounds that potentially could get triggered or do get triggered. So the manager protective parts of us try to manage our experience through the ego so that we do not get triggered. Whereas the firefighter protective parts of us, once a trigger happens and it gets through the manager, then the firefighter comes in to put the fire out and tries to do something to almost immediately numb the pain So people that experience drug addiction, people that experience intense forms of disassociation, these would be common examples of firefighter protective parts. Manager parts are going to be the people that sort of assume identities that, oh, I never get hurt, I'm a strong person, or I'm in control of everything, I got everything under control. People that don't show their deeper vulnerabilities is often a sign of someone who's operating from a managerial protective part of the ego. And the thing is with parts is we can have a whole host of different parts within our system. So there could be one manager part that does this to manage. There could be another manager part that does that to manage. There can be another manager part that does this to manage, right? So, and then parts can even have discords with each other. So you could have a part of you that tries to manage your life by keeping you angry all the time. And then you could have another part of you that is, that tries to manage the anger because the anger has been getting you in trouble. So it's like that part, that angry part wants to come through to take control and manage the triggers. And then this other part's like, get into a cage, get down. We don't do that. So we suppress our anger. And it just can become a whole host of, discord or dysregulation within the system, which is why it's important to understand our parts and build relationships with them. But I share this just so that you can understand that's literally what the ego is. It is a conglomeration of our protective parts of ourselves. And these protective parts of us aren't bad. These protective parts actually have beautiful roles that they really want to play and that they naturally have at their most natural state when they're not carrying all the trauma from our past. But the thing is, for most of us, our protective parts operate in ways that are not healthy because they're trying to manage us from getting triggered, or they're trying to put fires out that have been triggered. So this is why the ego gets so much of a bad rap in our today's time, is because we're noticing these parts of us, these protective parts of us, doing things that seem to be harming us. But really, it's just these parts that are wounded parts of the inner child from the past that don't know any better. So it's like we have to build relationships with them by first approaching them with compassion and understanding that they're actually trying to help us even though they don't know how to do that yet. That's why they need a form of inner parenting. But that's the ego. So I want you to understand that when you approach life saying, I have to kill my ego, or I have to fight against my ego, or my ego is this part of me that I hate, and I just want to get rid of it. I just want to meditate so I can just, get rid of it and never have to deal with it again. You're doing that to a wounded inner child part of you, a conglomeration of wounded inner child parts of you that are forming your ego. So why are you trying to kill parts of your inner child? Why are you trying to disregard and dismiss parts of your inner child? That's not a healthy approach. And actually, I would say that's even an egotistical approach. I would say that's a part of you that's trying to control all of this, that would be approaching it that way anyways, which is where that discord between parts can take place. Because the natural response for someone who's grounded is to find a form of acceptance and love for all parts of self, including the ego. Not having to approach the ego as this inferior aspect of self that is just a part of human biology and human nature that we have to find a way to stomp on and get rid of. Your ego matters, and your ego is going to be with you for the rest of your life. And if you don't build a relationship with it, I promise you, it's going to cause damage in your life because it's connected to these protective parts of you. And these protective parts of you, they want your attention and they want your love. And the more you resist them, the more they will persist in their unhealthy ways of protecting. So the first place that you really have to start with is just that paradigm shift that your ego is actually a healthy thing to have that makes you human. And when you start recognizing that your ego has value and that these protective parts of you can change out of their roles that might be harming you into roles that are much more healthy and organic and natural for your system, that changes the whole entire game for self. It will change the whole game for you and how you have a relationship with yourself and how your ego then gets to work with you rather than against you. So how many people are struggling with that? having a hard time understanding, oh, my ego is actually on my side? Is that what you're telling me? So I don't have to get away from my ego or suppress it? That's exactly what I'm telling you. And I want you to have a more gentle approach with your ego as well. I don't want you to just go into certain things trying to destroy it or trying to shove it down or trying to attack it. I understand there's such thing as an ego death, and all that really means is we are unblending and separating from a part of ourself. It's not that the part is dying or going away, it's just that we're unblending from it, meaning we're no longer attached to it, thinking the part is us. Rather, we're showing the part that we are who we are, and the part is only a part of us. That's what a real ego death is. It is the death to the blending of that part so the part can separate and we can start observing from our central self. We're not approaching ego death from the lens of I have to kill these parts of me or delete or get rid of these parts of me, because all of these parts play important roles and they tried to protect you in the best way that they knew how from your past. So why would you try to hurt something and be so mad at something that just had your best interest in mind when you were younger? Remember, all of these protective parts of us assumed their unhealthy roles from abuse that we've been through in the past. And the unhealthy roles that they assumed at that time very likely could have completely kept us safe and kept us alive. It's just now that you're an adult, you're noticing the same protective mechanism that's operating as that child self that's still frozen in the past, and you're noticing the ways it's trying to protect you is no longer serving your system. And that's where you get to come into play and understand the importance of these protective parts, approach them with compassion, create room to separate from them, show them that you're a healthy leader of your system, and then remind them they don't have to protect in that same role. They don't have to protect in that same way. They don't have to use drugs to escape the triggers because you're willing to process it. You're willing to have that discipline and that groundedness to say, I'm not doing the drugs today. I don't need to. I'm willing to feel these emotions. You get to create a lifestyle or routines in your life that show you are giving yourself time to even connect with your parts. You're showing your parts that the feelings that they carry and the memories that they carry are able to actually come through your nervous system, and you're able to be with it rather than always trying to push it away or keep yourself distracted from all of these things. You're doing active things or taking active steps to work with your parts and show them that you can process those energies. That's going to come down to the 4 pillars of the foundation that I always talk about: listening to your body's sensations, connecting to your emotions, honoring these things when they show up, addressing unhealthy coping mechanisms, and introducing healthy ones as a replace. 3rd pillar, really processing these emotions, being willing to go into some of these past memories where there are aspects of your wounded self, and just visiting that and being willing to feel through the things that you once felt in the past, so that that version of you that's still there can start a process of coming to where you are now in the present moment, where there's more safety. And then the 4th pillar is all the tools that support it, different practices that we have. You know, for people that work with me one-on-one, we literally do parts work over the phone. We literally go into your own trauma history and we start digging into some of that stuff to see what's there. And I help support you in understanding how to feel through it and actually process it. I give you little practices that you can even apply at home that are going to also support that, that processing to take place. So this is what the ego is. This is how we want to understand the ego. And remember, there is a self amongst the ego. So when you're unblending from parts of you, you are accessing more of your authentic, truest self. This is the self. This is the higher self connection. This is a state where you're not operating from ego, but you're working with ego, or ego's working with you. And you as self, soul, and spirit is leading your system. So you can access consciousness without being riddled by your ego, because you're not blended with it. You're not attached to it. but it takes time to unblend, takes time to get your parts to trust you, to stay there, so that you can spend more time in self energy or in your, truest self and live from that space. But when you're living from that space, your energetic resonance is so much more powerful. Your energetic resonance is expanding so much wider, and you're bringing in things consistently like a magnet in alignment with your core values, in alignment with your deepest core intentions. And it's not something you have to control. It's not something you have to force. It literally just naturally happens. This is when your finances start working out for no reason, it seems. This is when your relationships start working out for no reason, it seems. It just starts falling into place, and all you're doing is working on this relationship with yourself and having a healthier inner family system that's starting to trust you more, and then you're gaining more access to yourself rather than always blending with your different parts. Most of humanity is blended with their protective parts. And then we have very vulnerable parts of us too that we also can blend with. Most people are experiencing life from a blended state and are not accessing self. So we want to be able to live life, I would say majority of life from that space. But it also doesn't mean that we judge ourselves or we shame ourselves if we're noticing ourselves blending. It's just a sign that whatever part of us is blending with us that we're attaching to, we need to spend some more time, energy, and attention with, because it's trying to get our communication if we're noticing it happening. And then there may be a good amount of you that might be listening to this that are having a hard time understanding what is myself and what is my part. Am I blended right now? And that's stuff that we would definitely be able to go into in a one-on-one call. I would say definitely within the mentorships. That's the deeper work that we do. But there's ways, just this education alone can help you develop a deeper understanding of what is potentially going on within your system. And when you access self, you're not going to feel like it's a part of you. So when you start recognizing your different protective parts as well as the vulnerable parts that are really sensitive and vulnerable, you're going to start noticing the energy change when those parts blend. You're going to recognize, okay, this feels like a part of me. This doesn't necessarily feel like my core right now. And then when you unblend, you will feel, okay, this isn't a part of me. This is just me right now. That's the state that we want to access. All right, so with that being said, this was the main message that I wanted to leave in our today's video. Hopefully this was able to offer you value in regards to understanding what the ego is, how the ego functions, the self that works with the ego, how most people are blended with the ego, and how a lot of people approach the ego as a bad thing too. So with that being said, now this gives you more clarity to understand the inner system. We don't want to worship our parts because these are wounded inner children most of the times, and we don't want to neglect our parts either. We want to have a healthy relationship with them, an appreciation for their existence, but also a reparenting so that they can know that we are the leader of our system. That's how we want to approach life. With that being said, if this was valuable for you, slam the thumbs up button. Drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you learned from this. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Just checking my phone. 1 second. Yep. Definitely drop in the comment section. Let me know what you've learned from this. Let me know if you're resonating with what I'm saying. Let me know if this gave you a little bit of a paradigm shift, because I would love to hear that. Hit the notification bell and get notified whenever I'm posting, because I post videos every single day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, because by subscribing, you're further energetically connecting to everything it is that I'm teaching. So definitely make sure you tap into that as well. Now, if you know someone that needed to hear this message today, I encourage you to copy and paste the link and send it to them. So definitely make sure you tap into that as well. Okay, now I'm going to take your awareness to the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have an entire vault of exclusive content that is only for the Patreon members. This is content that's going to go deep into different education on spirituality, even touching on subjects that are in regards to the occult, education on trauma work, how to create a healthier foundation, and then doing the shadow work parts of working through all of this stuff. So all of this stuff is going to be organized in different collection sections that you can navigate from start to finish. And there's about 1,600 plus active members of the Patreon, and it's only continuously growing. So I encourage you to check it out. And if for some reason you don't have the money to invest in it, you can even sign up for free. So I encourage you to tap into that as well. Tier number 3 and 4 of the Patreon is extremely unique. This is a ritual service that I perform on the 29th of every single month that has one, and it's an energetic transfer from me to you as the receiving participant to initiate you into what is called a Universe B, which is a shadow dimension that every single one of us is connected to, but most of us have a hard time accessing this. And the reason is because we have a lot of our protective parts of us that are managing us from actually being able to access these deeper portions of the unconscious. So similar to how a psychedelic can help us kind of move past our protectors to get into some of the deeper unconscious, this energetic ritual that I perform can also have that same effect on you as the receiving participants. So it's going to support you in processing those repressed energies and having experiences with your unconscious mind, which will allow you to heal trauma at a very deep level. As you release that from your system, you're going to have more room to ground into your core. You're going to notice your energetic resonance starts changing through time, and then that's going to have an effect on the world around you. And it will take time. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, but if you commit to yourself and this process, this ritual can absolutely be a very powerful support for your process. And there's about over 300 active participants that are continuously taking advantage of this ritual service every single month, and I get loaded with tons of positive feedback from people that are receiving it. So if it's something you're interested in, first link below, we'll leave it there. Second link is where you can book the one-on-one calls with me, or you can jump right into mentorships. So if you're someone that is interested in working with me directly and you want to be able to do some of this parts work, or you want to understand how to create a healthier foundation to regulate your nervous system, I would be honored to work with you in that way. So please think about it, sit on it for some time, check in with yourself, ask yourself if this is a step that you want to take, and I would be more than honored and happy to work with you. Okay? So all of that is in the second link. In the same second link, you can book a tarot card reading with Alexia. Alexia is a very gifted tarot card reader that can help you understand your inner system and then what's going on in the world around you in the present moment, and then what to expect moving into your near future. From some of the people that she's already done readings with, she's gotten some amazing feedback. People have said things along the lines of, wow, that was one of the best tarot card readings that I've ever received out of all the readings that I've ever gotten. So if you're interested in that, that's also in the second link below. The fourth link, this is going to be the YouTube memberships. This is where you get to join the Universal Mastery family, and I would love to have you a part of it. We really are a family here. So if you want to join the collective at that deeper level, I would love to have you there. You're also going to get access to early content releases and some exclusive content as well. So definitely consider tapping into that. And then the final link is the book recommendations that I have for you. For those of you that are into the deeper layers of spirituality, definitely consider that. And then we're going to wrap it up here. So I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.